All right. Peace world. It's Wyking here at Africatown Media Studios at the Black Dot Underground once again. Here today to continue the conversation about black economic empowerment. And we have a very special guest, a legend, from our community, All-American, team captain, UW Rose Bowl MVP. But today we're here to talk about some other issues, which may be some of the most important work of your career, right? And so honored to have you in here, Brother Greg, and definitely looking forward to talking about some of these issues.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I've been back working in this community for the last couple of years, now trying to figure out how I can actually leave a legacy here in the community of Seattle, not just on the football field. And I appreciate you allowing me to come here and talk about what I'm doing these days.
Definitely. So yes, the famed and longstanding community institution, YMCA. You're now the team captain per se, or the executive director there. So maybe talk about kind of the path there, and just for people that may not know about the deep history and significance of the YMCA, particularly to the black community in the Central District. Share a little bit about that.
Yeah. So for the last 2.5 years, I've had the privilege of being the executive director at the Meredith Mathews East Madison YMCA, and that should resonate with a lot of folks who grew up in this area and in this community, because the YMCA has played a significant role over the years. It was actually established in 1936, and the reason being the black community was reaching out to the YMCA saying, hey, we need some of your services and the things that you guys provide in our community. And the YMCA of Greater Seattle sort of at the time was like, all right, we've been getting inquiries from the black community and the Asian community about a place, and we know we need to have a building in order for them to, really benefit from our services, but we can't do both. And over, a period of time, they decided that the black community up in the Central District was going to be the place they would open up a facility. A building was donated by a generous citizen, the Coleman family, and the YMCA started providing services primarily to servicemen who were going to and coming back from World War II, place to stay, get a meal, help them find, community and services and that. And over the years, it sort of evolved into a place where the entire community could benefit from the services at the YMCA, and especially our young people. Dr. Meredith Mathews, who became the executive director in the 50s, actually came to start youth programs. And at that time, it was an opportunity to help young people who were looking for a way to get engaged in what was happening in America, the civil rights movement and all that. So they learned how to sort of become leaders and sort of build a network of individuals who would help them, get in that fight. And so the YMCA has done a lot of work over the years. Now we're still engaged in education. We have the Y Scholars program at Garfield High School. We've been engaged in health and wellness programs, specifically helping fight chronic disease in the black community, because stuff like obesity and diabetes are chronic. So we're still in the black community, specifically trying to serve that community and the folks in the Central District in particular. But because our community is spread out, our work has to be spread out.
Yeah. So with all of the change that has happened in terms of the the population being dispersed, what are some of the the visions or the future projections that you have of how the Y can play a role in maintaining that?
So our just the people who come through the door every day changed, because as the community has changed. And so when I came there about 2.5 years ago, my thought process is how can we continue to serve the black community, even though the black community is not here, coming through my doors every day. So I started thinking about how can we get involved in helping either bring people back to the community or keep people in the community. Right now, we're partnering with Ebenezer AME, the church that's right next door to us, on a potential development project so that we can build affordable housing, so that we can keep people in the community? How do we help them strengthen their congregation so that they'll have a facility that people be proud of and, can draw members and keep people coming back to the Black community? We also, again, like I said, are reaching to partner with other organizations, not just the churches, but like Horn of Africa, the Urban League, so that we can bring the programs that we do to their constituents, wherever they may be, whether they're in Kent, Federal Way, SeaTac, but we can still bring those programs outside of our walls to some of these other organizations.
That's great. That's good to hear and good to know that we have a leader over there that really values that and is striving to move things in that direction so that all is not lost in the community. I say often it should never be as if we were never there, right? And it's just signs left, So how can we have active activities and ongoing things that really honor the history, not just be museum pieces, and that's been a lot of the work around Africatown.
Right. Yeah, I also think, some of the things that the YMCA can do is sort of reestablish programs like the Black Achievers, which is designed to get young African-American kids thinking about college and higher education, and then literally helping them put together their portfolios so that they can take them to colleges and when they're going through the admissions process to help them get into school and higher education. And we're doing other things. We had a big community event a couple of weeks ago, Friday night at the Y, where we sort of reestablished the old tradition of having
talk
Friday
about
night.
That tradition. A lot of people don't necessarily know about that tradition.
Yeah. So back in the day, in the 40s and 50s, there was a lot of music and culture that was genesis and being created in this area, and no one really knew about it because they didn't have places to play. They couldn't go downtown to play at the clubs. So the YMCA opened their doors to these young musicians, the Ray Charles and the Quincy Jones and the Ernestine Andersons, and allowed them to play there, and they would have parties and folks would come and groove on Friday nights and get into it. But a lot of those musicians were even discovered at those events because, of course, it would get out about how talented they were, and the rest is history with a lot of those folks. So the YMCA has been a place for folks to grow and allow them to put their magic out there into the world, that magic that comes from us.
Definitely. With that said, and just talking about how things have changed and the displacement, a lot of that has to do with, the economics, right? The growth. Seattle is booming in certain areas, tech and, and various industries. And, we've been talking this week a lot about these statistics that was recently published in the Seattle Times around, the median income, right? And we know about the net wealth, and so the median income being $105,000 for whites in Seattle and just $42,000 for blacks in Seattle. And obviously that's driving a lot of the displacement, because if you're if you're not involved, you can't. There's no bidding war happening when you got 40 cents on a person's dollar. And then this other report, McKinsey, that came out from the McKinsey Consulting about, it said African American men will suffer the most as automation jobs, once held by humans, are replaced. So what is, you're a brother from our community whose gifts and grit and commitment have taken you to, all the way to the, to the NFL and to, I know, into many corporate boardrooms and the University of Washington, working there. So what are some things that you have really seen? And I know we could go deep into the causes, but just at a high level, what are some of the key causes and maybe some of the solutions that you see our community and then the broader community can implement?
Well, I think when you think about economic disparities, the first thing you have to think about are opportunities that individuals have to make money, and jobs, requiring a certain amount of skill or education or connections, which, in our community has been been ravaged. If you go look at our public schools, our public school systems in the Black community,
Right.
I mean, there's been a lack of investment, a lack of having good teachers in schools and buildings for many decades. And that's something that has to be addressed specifically,
Right.
and it has to be addressed intentionally. I think, years ago, and I know, and I'll try to connect the dots on both of these, but some of the jobs that, pay good salaries, like being a plumber and being a mechanic and things like that, those were taught in the schools years ago. But somewhere along the line, they took those, career paths out of our schools. And,
right.
And so those jobs are lost. Now you got to go somewhere else to get the training, and maybe you don't have access to that. So that's become another issue. Higher ed has been, not necessarily something that, our kids are graduating from high school, but they're not going to college and graduating from college. So that's been another obstacle, because sometimes some of those higher income positions require you to go to college, get that college degree. So I think as a community, we have to, insist that our kids get whatever education as high as level as they can go. We need to bring back some of the trades so that there are other options other than just higher ed. Because sometimes you can go to college for 4 years, get a sociology degree, come out, and there ain't no job. But you can learn. Big fat bill, though. Exactly. You got a large tuition bill and all that. So you can, get a vocation in a high school if they bring that back, and then come out and be a plumber, be a journeyman, and make money, support your family, and not have that. On the automation side, though, I think what we have to do is to insist that along with maybe some vocational training in the schools, the ability to be training our kids how to, work in that system where those machines and those computers are going to have to be fixed. They have to be maintained. So those are jobs that we need to have access to. So they need to be teaching our kids in our schools how to work on computers. One of the programs that we're looking at right now, hosting this organization called Black Girls Code, to get kids coding and learning how to use technology. And so an organization like the YMCA can partner with organizations to make sure the kids in our community are getting that same access and those same opportunities. So, I think it starts with the educational piece, and we have to insist that our kids get the same education, the same opportunities. And then as parents, we have to insist that our kids stay in school, get the highest level of education that they can get, and, make sure that these vocation opportunities are open as well.
Right, definitely. I mean, to your point about the innovation and and even vocation, we definitely have to be strategic about what paths, and really look at what's going on in the economy, not just locally, but even globally, right? And make sure that we're being strategic, because like you said, you get that sociology degree. Are they paying for, who's paying for that knowledge all over the world? I'm not sure. But to the innovation point, like, the Central District from, the Y or Madison, right, basically down to Jackson, you speak about the legacy. That was just a whole stretch of innovation, right? Because if Jimi Hendrix didn't innovate with the guitar, I mean, what is innovation, right?
Absolutely.
And so how can we tap into that same energy today, and we have now the Central District has been designated as a historic cultural arts district, and one of our things with what Africatown was saying, the historic is good to acknowledge our history, but we don't want to be museum pieces in the community where it's just the namesake, the plaques, the streets, the parks that but how do we have a living monuments, and also looking at where does our heritage and legacy of innovation be tapped and directed to connect with today's economy. So we, said, well, what if we have like a cultural innovation district where we're really like taking the creative genius, the entrepreneurial spirit, the hustle that's always been in the community, because people got to make it work, right? They got to figure it out and really harness that, and from what you're saying, I can see how the Y could be a significant player in that type of ecosystem, Black tech ecosystem.
Yeah, we can be a player. I just think all of this really comes back to the word intentionality. We have to be intentional as a culture, one, to make sure that we're partnering with one another. We're not sitting in silos saying, well, I'm gonna do this piece, but how do we reach out to other folks and see what they're doing and how we can connect and bring those different pieces together in an intentional way. And then there has to be some sort of recognition that the Black community has been harmed, and there has to be a very intentional support to come to restore and bring health back to that Black community. Definitely. It can't just be, well, you guys figure it out because you guys are good at hustling and being innovative and all of that. There needs to be some intentional, all right, we need to create a microcosm of people working together, whether it's social services, spiritual services, educational, economic, all kind of coming together to create, an opportunity for us to sort of get back on track and bring that. When we are all working together, we can do amazing things coming out of this culture. I think back, there's this story in the Bible about the Tower of Babel. And I think a lot of times people preach a negative spin on that they were all working together as one. And so they were going to build this tower. So God had to confuse their voices so that they couldn't accomplish this thing. But I think it's really more a story of what we can actually do when we do come. We can do amazing, fantastic things. And so this gentrification has tried to spread us out intentionally, in my opinion, because when we're together, we're so powerful. We can do fantastic things, the art and the culture, the history. We were talking earlier about the number of NBA players just from this one little community, but the amount of genius that can come out of here when we're all working together as a community is amazing. We can do fantastic stuff. Take that same
bar of Black excellence that they're achieving in that field and just set that as the bar across all fields, right? From science to entrepreneurship.
There's nothing you can stop us from doing.
Absolutely. That's a great vision, and it's good to know that we have leadership at institutions that are thinking at that level, that are on the ground, striving to also connect with others. And so just from your being in the community and having the exposure that you've had, what are your thoughts about the work that's been going on around with Africatown?
I'm inspired, to be honest with you. What I've seen you guys able to accomplish in the last few years has been inspiring to me. It's given me at least the confidence that, the work that, I feel like I want to do can be accomplished because you guys have sort of led the way. I was at the grand opening of the Liberty Bank building, and I just saw so many folks there who had dreams and aspirations of something like that happening again in our community, where once that was the norm, we developed, we build, we created, and now to have to say we got to come back and do it again, this is just the first time, was inspiring to me. I think it also I think Africatown has created a model that others can follow, but I also think that you guys have created, just an energy around the community of folks that are now believing that we can, hold on to it. We're not done. It's not over. The game ain't over. And sometimes, when you look at that clock, I'm playing sports, you down 21 points in the first quarter. You can either start working harder to get back in it, or you can shut it down and say it's over. Well, you guys have let us know that the game's not over.
It's not over.
It's not over. So I'm hyped. I'm really hyped by that. Our conversation that we had earlier today, I also believe that Africatown is willing to work and embrace, it's not just about you guys. It's not just about Africatown. It's about this community.
You can't have a community with just one. It's just like a business, district, right? You can't just have one business, right? One may, start it or something, but you look at what's going on in Seattle. It's not just Microsoft. It's not just Amazon. It's all of the things that grow around that and everyone else's success. And to your point, like silos. If we look at our community as really one body, you can't have like your lungs over here on this page, your toes on that page,
exactly.
Doing its own thing. So, I think as the spirit of, like you said, confidence, because we have really everything that we need among us. We have so much brilliance. Even just in this small population, of African Americans here in the area, that when we do really start firing and things start connecting, man, I can't even imagine what's going to happen. But to see, I'm looking forward to coming down to that groundbreaking down on your site in Ebenezer. And so, when we look at like a 10-year plan, it has to encompass many people having success.
Absolutely.
And so glad to be connected. Any other specific things? I know you were speaking about, and we talked about before the health initiatives that you have going right now, and that the fact that that is reaching out to other communities and organizations as well.
Yeah, I just, a lot of people think of the YMCA, think about working out, getting in shape and that sort of thing. And yes, we are that. But I think deeper than that, we are really trying to figure out how can we help communities that are, underprivileged or disadvantaged or don't have the access to healthy foods and all that, to actually teach them how they can use the resources that they do have, how to eat better, how to exercise, and how important these things are to your longevity. So we're partnering with, like I said, churches in the Black community. We're partnering with organizations that support people of color, that engage people of color, to make sure that folks are, getting healthy. I mean, first thing, what you want to do is take care of your health. You want to stay alive. You want to be here for your family. So, that's one thing that we're really focused on right now. So if, people out there want to know more about how they can, tap into this, come down to the Meredith Mathews YMCA or call us 206-322-6969 and ask to speak to me, and I'll certainly, try to point them in the right direction. And
online, is there? Can people find you online?
Yeah,
website, social media.
Yep. So SeattleYMCA.org, and then when you go to our main webpage, just do a search for Meredith Mathews, East Madison YMCA, and that's how you guys can reach out to us. The social media, we have a Facebook page, and we also have a Instagram page, but don't ask me to tell you, because I'm old school. Me and social media are just now starting to get engaged with one another.
Right. Cool. Well, man, we appreciate you coming in the studio to share with us, to be present, and looking forward to what's to come. All right. And just for the community, any special events coming up that folks should be knowing about? That Friday at the Y, is that happening again?
It is definitely going to happen again. We don't have a date selected yet, but when we do, we'll make sure that we connect with Africatown and get the word out. We do appreciate you guys supporting that event. Folks said they had a great time, so we will be bringing that back.
Wonderful. All right, so that's that's our time for today. Again, the message is tap in, don't tap out. Peace.